And recently, Scott Morrison's approval ratings tumbled to an all-time low. According to a poll conducted for an Australian newspaper, Morrison's ratings have reached their lowest level in nearly 2 years. The Australian Prime Minister is just months away from a federal election. He has been fielding criticism over his handling of the Omicron outbreak. The surge in daily infections reached record levels, driving up hospitalization rates and straining the healthcare systems. Morrison's performance dropped 5 points to 39% in January, the lowest level since March 2020. Back then, he fielded criticism over his response to the devastating bushfires. 2 years ago, when Scott Morrison visited the bushfire-hit town of Cobargo, residents shouted out, "You are not welcome," on his arrival, while a firefighter refused to shake his hand. Scott Morrison has enjoyed record ratings since then. This after he shut down Australia's borders and unveiled several financial support schemes for the people hit by the COVID-19 lockdowns, something that helped contain the rapid spread of the virus in Australia. But now Australians are fast losing confidence in Scott Morrison and his Liberal Party coalition government. A medical exemption had allowed Serbian tennis star Novak Djokovic to enter Australia without being vaccinated against COVID-19, and this also sparked fury in the country and became a political issue for the Prime Minister. The popular support for Morrison's ruling Conservative coalition has also slumped to the lowest levels ever since he became Prime Minister in 2018. For the first time, Labour was marked up as the better party to lead the country out of the COVID-19 crisis.
Saw the measure of principle.
Morrison still leads his rival, Labour leader Anthony Albanese, but the margin now stands at 43 to 41%. And that's a sharp turnaround from last month's 45 to 36% in favour of Scott Morrison. Interestingly, the survey shows that if the poll result was replicated at an election, the centre-left Labour would win with a sizable majority.
Partisan, multi-partisan, unanimous to speak of.
For more on these developments, joining us on the broadcast is Jarni Blakarli, a journalist from Melbourne. I want to start by asking for your reaction to the Prime Minister's apology. This was long pending. What do you make of the delay in that apology?
Yeah, so this apology came about after a review that was started last year from a very high-profile political staffer who came forward and said that she was raped inside Parliament House. The review was following her allegations being made public, and one of the review's one of the first recommendations of the review was that the leaders of the major political parties make this apology that they did today. So the apology was a long time coming. It's an issue that the Prime Minister Scott Morrison was quite heavily criticised for his response to last year, the way that he handled the allegations being made public. But with this apology today, obviously they're hoping to move on from the issue and focus on other issues as we move into an election year.
The Deputy Prime Minister, who heads the junior partner in Morrison's coalition government, called Prime Minister Morrison a hypocrite and a liar. He has now apologised. But what are the implications of this controversy for Scott Morrison? He already has pressure piling up. He has to call a federal election by May.
Yeah, so Scott Morrison's been under a lot of pressure on a lot of different fronts, as you mentioned. These text messages that came out from the Deputy Prime Minister that have been made public, as well as a number of other issues as well. His popularity is down quite a lot. A lot of people are upset with the way that he and his government have handled the COVID pandemic here in Australia, particularly in the last few months. And so he's under a lot of pressure. The polling kind of shows him trailing behind the main opposition party, the Labor Party. So he's got a lot of challenges ahead of him before the election, which has to be called in May.
Right, and Morrison's approval ratings have fallen over his handling of the COVID-19 outbreak. What are the other issues that are driving that dip in the ratings?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of Australians at the start of the pandemic said that they really did trust Scott Morrison and the federal government to handle COVID well, and he actually received quite a surge in the polls in the early years of the pandemic. Though with the latest kind of surge in cases and some of the shortcomings when it comes to testing and other requirements, COVID has really taken a real blow to his popularity. The opposition Labor Party has been very keen to focus on this issue of trust and kind of calling Scott Morrison a liar, calling him someone who you can't believe and trust. So that's definitely going to be their focus as we head into the election.
What do you make of Scott Morrison's handling of all that criticism that has come his way?
He's been very quick to kind of push these criticisms to the side, deflecting blame from his government to a lot of the state governments and other people involved in the pandemic response. But that's also something that he's been heavily criticised for as well. This pushing of responsibility away from the federal government towards the state governments. So it'll be interesting to see how the next few months play out and whether he'll be able to recover some of the standing that he's lost in the last few months in the polls.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.